Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Post-Conference Presser for Anfield Index. I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a fucking unbelievable gaff. Look where it has. Look at this geezer behind me. I am in a proper old-style Georgian mansion, or as you would probably know it, Eddie Gibbs's toilet, to be honest. But yeah, this is unbelievable. So don't pretend I'm aristocracy or anything like that. I am here to run you through the normal, ladies and gents. So what do we have? We had Arne slot, questions and answers. We always do. We got injury updates, which we were looking for. Maybe not exactly the answers we were looking for, but we got them. We'll talk through the normal lessons from the last one. Villa, that seems an eternity ago, doesn't it? Since the last international break. So there's that one. We'll look at the threat Southampton pose. And then I will give my predicted lineup, score, and scorers. So there's many things to run through as ever, ladies and gents. And probably the one place to start, the injury news. So he was asked by Video Connor, as he always is, about multiple elements, multiple players. So let's just get into it. He was asked about them all. He said, first of all, Alisson, yeah, we have to be careful with everyone, muscle injuries, and when they come back. He is training with the goalkeeper coach, but not in team training. He's expected to be back soon. So let's wait and see where he is in terms of match fitness, but he's not ready to play. And he did follow up a bit on that later, saying that Alisson will not be available for Real Madrid. So we are fingers and everything crossed, aren't we, for the City game a week on Sunday. However, Keller has been outstanding. I know you can't really bridge that any other way at all. So let's just fingers crossed, hope that carries on at the same time. The other bits, he was asked about Trent, Virgil, Jota and Harvey. And it was kind of funny because he started this one with, when you started with Trent and Virgil, I was expecting a different question, which I think it's fair. We all were. Virgil is all good. He's back in team training. So that is brilliant news. Trent isn't training with us yet, but he's getting there. So we expect him to be back soon. Harvey is training with us again. So that's a positive thing. He's on the training ground and back with the team. Jota is apart from the group, as is Federico, who's back into session, hopefully one of the exercises today. They're all expected to be back in the next few weeks, but as ever, the last part of recovery is the most difficult. So you've got a real mix there, haven't you, when you think about it? Trent seems right on the verge, may or may not make Real Madrid, but if he doesn't, it seems like City's a definite, so we will take that. Virgil, that is the biggest boost, isn't it? The captain is back. I still don't know if I'd risk him for this one. I have to be honest, I'll come to that. But yeah, that's where we stand on that. Chiesa sort of slowly again having this mini pre-season, they described it as well, didn't they? So hopefully that's feeding back. And then at the same time, Jota, maybe, I think we knew this before the international break, didn't we? 1 or 2 weeks. We have to have fingers crossed and everything with that one. And that was a sort of an extra question that James Pearce asked about, are they back for Real Madrid, City, and those other games? And you have to wait and see because the last few days are always the most tricky. It's difficult for me to judge. As he said, I mentioned before, the only thing we can say, Alisson and Jota, I don't expect them to be available for that Madrid game. So we might just have to survive, people. That is just the way it is. He was also asked about being 5 points clear at the top. He said, yeah, we enjoy that position. It would be strange if I said I didn't enjoy the position we're in now. But we also understand that it's 11 games, so it's a lot of games that have to be played. And we know the teams we face are able to have a run of games. So we want to stay where we are. We have to keep bringing the results in starting on Sunday. Even though everyone says Southampton are bottom of the league, their playing style is very interesting and a joy to watch their games and nice and an interesting way of playing. I kind of get what he was doing here. This is a little bit of let's just focus because it's easy to look and go, Southampton are bottom. They've got 4 points out of 11 games. People will be, this is the give me. And I know that will factor in. Arne Slot is not looking at it like that at all. He is focusing the minds very much. And also, I get what he's saying. Southampton have an interesting way of playing. It's not really wielding results and there's question marks around it. But yeah, I like the way he answered that. It's just one to focus and not get a banana skin straight after the international break. He was also asked about the run of fixtures coming up. He said, well, we've got an incredible fixture list coming up, starting with Southampton. He wasn't letting anyone escape that at all as well. That is always by far the most important game. And if you want to enjoy the other two, you've got to go into that having won. It's no effect at all to my team selection, the other two games. What does have an effect is the playing style of Southampton. Players coming back and injuries is the only thing I consider, and the next game is always the most important. And I understand completely why the journalist asked this question, because if you look at those three games, Southampton, City, Real Madrid, or Southampton, Real Madrid, City, sorry, there's such a difference between the teams that you've got to say that. You can't lie about that at all. But it's just that stealing the mind from Arne Slot, isn't it? It's not a case of, yes, we can just let this roll and, we'll play anyone and the kids and Carol from the canteen against Southampton. He will look at it as the most important. I've no doubts about that. However, and I do say this quite strongly, I do expect a little bit of rotation. I think it would be crazy just with everything that's coming up, but maybe a few decisions that have changed things, but I'll expand on that a bit later. And he was also asked about his methodology and when players come back from internationals, how they make a decision, which was kind of, again, alluding to that question. He said, it's a bit of everything. I talk to the players, I hear from the medical performance staff, what they feel about the players. I listen to my technical staff, and then you look at the opponent. It is a bit of everything. That's not different to any other game. The only difference is the players who have played in South America and how they come back with normally jet lag. That's the only difference normally. That's the only difference between these team selections and the other games. And I think that is fair to say, because we've got quite a few coming back from South America. So there's no way around it. Tens of thousands of miles, jet lag, it is going to affect the legs. And everyone thinks back to those few games last season, especially that one for Alexis McAllister against Wolves, where he almost looked stoned, didn't he? Just walking around the midfield a little bit, and he was taken off at half time. You've got to be careful, and I will come to McAllister later, because I think that is something they do need to consider carefully. This one was my favourite question of it. So he was asked about Big Ibou Konate and how he's doing, because it is his best period. And it was a well-phrased question. It was a brilliant answer for me. It was the best thing about the whole press conference. He said, it's always about the player and how much effort does he put into staying fit. Second of all, the medical staff and the technical staff have to do the best possible thing they can to keep him fit. But if the player doesn't buy into it, it's almost impossible to keep the player fit. We have our ideas about how that works, and it's worked for a lot of players until now. And then it kind of went on a bit, but I want to pull this bit as well. I made a decision, and this is about the Ipswich game. We needed Ibou, and the reason he went from the United game to not playing for a long time, because he didn't play at the Euros at the end of the phase of the season. Every time we had a meeting with him, it was, I wouldn't maybe say the others had to adjust, or we had to adjust to all players, but I could see he wanted to listen. He wanted to improve, and that's what he did. And that's why his improvement compared to the first game in pre-season to Ipswich was a massive difference. I think there's quite a lot to pull out from this. I mean, that bit's the best bit, isn't it? Let's be completely honest. He wanted to improve. He wanted to listen. You are seeing that come through. Slot is really taking his game, I think, to, I would say another level, but it's improving it. There's no doubts about that. The fitness thing as well. There was a lot of suggestions last season that Ibou was, jetting here off everywhere, back to Paris all the time. So it maybe wasn't the best fitness record. And the stats, the time bears that out, doesn't it? There's no two ways about it. But we're almost flabbergasted at how many games he's played in a row. And it's interesting that this was mentioned, because Paul Joyce actually flagged this, didn't he, at the time when we did our Media Matters press conference, to say it was one of his biggest takeaways from recent press conferences with Arne Slot. And it's got mentioned again. It just feels like people are waking up to how much Ibou has bought into this, I would say fitness regime, maybe the wrong phrase, but the new methodology. And listen, proof's in the pudding, isn't it? It is working so much. He's been absolutely sensational this season. So, yeah, just touch wood, stay fit, Ibou, and everyone is happy. And then the final bit was about opponents, and a great question from Mo Stewart as ever. Shout out to him. But about opponents, set pieces, and Southampton conceding a third of their goals that way. I didn't know that. And how Liverpool have worked well. Said set pieces is something every club is taking really seriously. And we have great delivery, and we have players that are tall and can jump quite high. I always say if it's tight, the set piece can make a massive difference for you. Until now, we haven't conceded much on set pieces. If we can keep the same without conceding, we're in a good place. Now, you might correct me on this, people, but the only set piece I can think of us conceding is Marino, I think it was, wasn't it? That's it. The Arsenal, John, when they went 2-1 up, and he kind of should have scored one earlier. But that's the only set piece I've seen us conceding. Most Stuart alluded to this, fair play. How many goals of ours recently are on the break from set pieces? In fact, the two against Villa, realistically, weren't they? So, yeah, so much to like about set pieces. And fair shout out to, I think it's Arne in the coaching staff, isn't he? He's doing the job there as well. But, yeah, we all thought set piece specialist will come in from LinkedIn. I think the position is well and truly filled. So let's just hope that carries on. We'll turn now, like we always do, to this feels like an eternity ago, doesn't it? The last game against Aston Villa. I mean, remember that 2-0 at Anfield. Darwin Núñez, Mo Salah. And what are the lessons learned we look at from that? I mean, the lessons learned, how good were the defence that day? Ibou, Konate, absolutely sensational. We already knew it. Virgil van Dijk was great again. You've just got to keep those two fit and available. And it is important we say that because we had a bit of a scare with Van Dijk and Ronald Koeman's comments before, but he stays fit. You think that will be good, and the clean sheets just bear that out. Darwin Núñez, the conundrum around Darwin Núñez. I mean, he buries a difficult chance. He misses the one-on-one, and the header that comes across is not an easy chance, to be fair. So some people will argue 1 in 3 big chances. I'd probably argue 1 in 2. But listen, if it's a 50% ratio for taking your big chances, and he's got to play the game, he's got to get the minutes, we'll take that. But maybe we just saw everything that Darwin Núñez is in that. Maybe it is just that simple. Southampton Threats as well. Now, someone's going to... And we shouldn't do this because someone will say, listen, it's Southampton. They'll look at them and say, 4 points, 1-1, drawn 1, lost 9. That's your sort of thing. No, let's just be clear on this. This has banana skin potential just because everyone will want to see us lose. People were trying to amp it up, bottom of the table, top of the table. There's that storyline, David and Goliath effect. And at the same time, they gave a few teams trouble. Everyone forgets Arsenal were behind against them for a long period. People do genuinely forget that, to be honest. So just keep those things in mind. But I understand when you look at certain things, you look and say their top scorer is Archer with 2 goals. You will also look and say, who have they really got that's going to bang them in? You know, Adam Armstrong maybe, but it's stretching it. You'll also look and say, they've scored 7 in the Premier League and they've conceded 21 goals. And I get all that, you know, on paper, this is the team you would choose, you would select to play. Let's not pretend anything different. Let us not dress that up at all. The one thing that will be interesting, Taylor Harwood-Bells, he'll be playing after his England game and his England goal. Be interesting to see how he gets on. I don't know much about this player. I really don't particularly, but we mentioned him on the transfer show because we got the name. I think it's Tyler Dibling it's pronounced. So right winger, left-footed for Southampton. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? Supposed to be a real talent and all the big clubs are watching him, but we are very much one of those clubs that are interested. Again, Liverpool's interest, how much comes to fruition? No one is completely clear, but yeah, we will see how that bears out. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets any minutes or even plays. Now we come, as ever, ladies and gents, to the lineup, score and predicted scoreline and scorers, I should say. So I swithered on this a little bit. Now, before I knew what happened in the last round of international games, let me be clear, I was all for giving a couple a rest, and I'll explain why. I've not changed on all of them. Alexis McAllister is on 4 yellow cards. So if he gets a yellow card in this one, he is out of the Manchester City game. I think that needs to factor in. I also think what needs to factor in is, well, South America. Think of where he's come. So, yeah, I think McAllister on the bench is smart for this. I would, if he played the full game for Holland, have been Ryan Gravenberch. We need to rest him. But I don't know if anyone clocked it. Gravenberch and Gakpo only played about 17, 18 minutes for Holland against Bosnia in midweek. So it wasn't a complete rest. but it was good for us in that regard. It really was. So I don't know why. I don't know if like Arne Slot's got nudes on Ronald Koeman or something, but if you think he's sent home Virgil twice now, once said mine and Niggles last time just because it was the right thing to do. He didn't play Gakpo. He didn't play Gravenberch. There's something going on. I don't know if like what the relationship is between Slot and Koeman, but who cares? It's completely working for us. So that's one to consider. I also think, and I mentioned this on a few pods before, Wataru Endo, if you're not going to play him against Southampton away, when are you going to play Wataru Endo? It's a genuine question. It maybe seems for me this is the perfect game to rotate a little and rest players. So I almost say this with little confidence. I don't think he will do it, but here's what my lineup would be. Kelleher still, because Alisson isn't back. Connor Bradley, Canate. If there was any concern around Van Dijk, it would have been Gomez, but it is Virgil. And then Tsimikas, just because I think Robbo will play against Real and then against City. That is how I think it will line up. In midfield, I would definitely personally play Endo. I just think it's wise to start him and give Mac the rest. I would probably then go Gravenberch, Szoboszlai. And the reason for that is I believe you want Mac and Curtis Jones against Real Madrid and Manchester City. But, you know, with the alternates of those, all five are solid options that way. Up front, or the three positions on the top line, Cody Gakpo, he's travelled less and he's had more rest. So remember, he only came on, as we said, for the last sort of 17, 18 minutes against Bosnia. So he's had a bit of a rest. Luis Diaz is coming back as well from South America. And it also means you've got a refreshed, rested Luis Diaz for the Manchester City Real Madrid games. In the middle, there's only one option, Darwin Núñez. And I do wonder how he'll manage, because it doesn't sound like Jota's going to be back for definitely not Real Madrid, as he said. Unlikely City then, isn't he? So I am intrigued to see how he manages this forward line. And I'm even jumping ahead here, but you think Real Madrid, will he look at the alternate of maybe a Diaz false? I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider. And then Mo Salah on the right. So that is my starting lineup for Southampton. Do I say that with confidence? Absolutely not one jot. Predicted score? I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for the Reds and Mo Salah to be on the score sheet. But listen, any win, no injuries at this time of the year with an unbelievably massive week to come is a ginormous positive for the Reds here. So that is what we are hoping for. Fingers crossed. But there we go, ladies and gents. Friday even, the 22nd of November, Southampton on Sunday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game when it comes. That was another post-conference presser for Anfield Index.